Today's Evening First Alert weather show is brought to you by Bresky Siding.
And good Thursday evening, Mid-Michigan. Chief Meteorologist Chris Eastlick with your Thursday night weather update. Looks like we've got yet another round of snow getting set to move through parts of Mid-Michigan as we go into the last day of the work week here. This one not coming with any advisories this time around. Seems like we are getting through this with a more manageable time frame of snow. And what I mean by that is it appears that we are looking at more of a snowfall that is spread out through the course of the day. And so it doesn't seem like it's going to get quite as heavy during that stretch. I think the peak snowfall rates are somewhere between about 1/4 to 1/2 inch per hour. And when you spread that out over several hours, it's a little bit easier for the road crews to keep up compared to some of those snows that come down at around 1/2 inch to 1 inch per hour. So I actually think we're going to have at least a decent chance unless there's a change. I want to say that up front, unless there's a shift in timing or anything like that. I think there's a chance that we could kind of thread the needle tomorrow morning where this may not get underway at least fully until after most of our bus stops are done and after most of the morning rush hour is done. That is not to say that there won't be any slippery spots tomorrow morning and that some communities won't be a little bit slower for the morning commute. But based on the timeline that I saw early this evening, of course, I will assess our models that come in later tonight. Matthew will do it one more time in the morning. But the way it stands right now is it seems like most of us should be at work. Most of us should be at school before this really gets underway. And for those of us with different schedules, for instance, me not coming to the office until 3, or if you're just retired and have the day off, well, you might have to deal with it a little bit more than students in the rush hour. But so far, I think it could be a lot worse than what it actually looks like tomorrow. And I think the fact that the Weather Service has no advisories speaks to that as well. But again, everything can change in a blink here in Michigan, and so we will keep our eyes on that right through the morning. So as for your forecast tonight, it seems like we've got quiet conditions for the moment. And good evening to Caleb. Good evening to Wendy and Sherry, 3 of the reliable viewers of the live stream. Vicky, good evening. Kristen, hello. Kristen also very consistent with the viewing. Denise from Reese and Linda as well. We've got some snow starting to at least try to move back into the state this evening. It looks like it's primarily on the west side of the state. Currently moving back towards portions of the Lake Michigan shoreline and some of those areas. Taking a look at some of our observations, though, I'll actually pull this up on our computer so you can see that. It's a little deceiving for the moment. So let me pick the computer so you can see what I'm talking about. Notice as it comes through, what we're looking at, these are usually weather observations. So like, for instance, KLDM is the airport in Ludington, and then you've got Manistee, and then you go even further to the north, and Traverse City also has what appears to be some snow moving back in. But what we typically look for is there's usually some red snowflake icons that pop up within those stations. So it's very possible that because we cleared out a little bit earlier today, we saw the sunshine, that the air mass dried out significantly. So a lot of these areas of snow that you see right here, they may not be reaching the ground just yet. And so it might take some time. So you have to think of the atmosphere almost like a sponge. You know, you get that water soaked into the sponge, and then eventually you wring it out and the excess falls off the sponge. Well, our atmosphere is kind of like a dry sponge after you get the sunshine out. You've got to get that water back to full capacity into the sponge before eventually the excess starts to run off. And so what you're seeing on the west side of the state is we've got that snow in the upper levels of the atmosphere. There's snowflakes thousands of feet up. Problem is, as they're falling, they're just falling into that nice weather we had this afternoon down below, and we just haven't replaced that moisture just yet. So it's evaporating before it gets to the ground. So I think this is going to take some time before it eventually gets to us. So here's the timeline here. If we fast forward to around midnight, I think we'll start to see at least a few snow showers at least move in our direction. Are they going to be intense at first? I don't think so. And we may see the same struggles that the west side of the state is seeing right now, where some of that snow might not reach the ground right away. I do think it's possible that as the night goes along, we start to get that moisture in a little bit better of a position. and we start to see some scattered snow showers through the early morning commutes. I think we could see some around 6 and 7 a.m. as well. But if we fast forward through about 9, 10 o'clock, that's when you start to see the snow become a little bit more widespread by that point. And I think between that 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock time frame, that's what I was kind of looking at earlier for the period of most consistent snow, not necessarily the only snow, but I think that's the area where I think it could be a little bit more consistent, and that's where we'll grind out most of the accumulation. Now, the one thing that this system has working for it as it moves through is temperatures, at least on the front end. This is all the way through 1 o'clock, and of course will be a little bit cooler than that tonight. But this system does not have temperatures to contend with at the beginning that would not be supportive of accumulation. This is going, as soon as that snow falls, this is going to accumulate. And so that helps the accumulation factor as well. It's not like, I'm trying to think, maybe it was that snowfall we had, gosh, was it last weekend, maybe? It had to be, because I think there was some NFL football on while I was watching the snowfall outside. But we kind of had a melting factor at first, and then eventually things got going because our temperatures were near freezing. That's not going to be the case this time around. And think about our temperatures that we've had in recent days. We've had a lot of teens and low 20s. We've also had those cold wind chills as well. So I think the ground is primed for this snow to fall and to cause some slippery areas on the roads at times tomorrow. The good news is you'll also notice as we go further into the afternoon, as we start to get to 4 o'clock, that's kind of the tail end of this, and you can already see it starting to break up a little bit. Our temperatures do become more cooperative than they were today as far as road treatments are concerned. Salt is a little bit more effective at these temperatures compared to the teens. And so I think not only is this going to fall during the daylight hours, but because it's only coming down again, maybe at the peak between about 1/4 to 1/2 inch per hour, and other times less than that, I think we're going to have road crews out. I think they're going to be doing their best to keep up with this throughout the day. And then the better part again this afternoon on this image right here is you're going to get some more cooperative temperatures when it comes to those road treatments. The system kind of fizzles out into Friday evening, and then after Friday evening, we start to get a little lake effect that migrates through from time to time going into Saturday. And you'll likely just have some scattered lake effect going into Saturday afternoon and into Saturday evening, most of which, of course, is going to be on the west side of the state. So here is our snowfall map this time around. We've got about a solid 1 to 3 over this area here, and we did include an isolated 4. We don't think 4, at least at this time, based on what we've looked at this afternoon and early this evening, we don't think 4 is going to be widespread, but we also think there's at least a world where a few locations could get that much. So we're going to include that in the range. We think, again, most will fall between 1 and 3. And then our northern counties, we have about 2 and 5. There is one area that I do want to show you. Let's see if I can pull that up. One area that I think at least bears a little bit more watching in that 2 to 5 area. I did want to show this last night, but I couldn't because it didn't cooperate with me. But I'll pull up in a second where I think there could be maybe a chance for some higher totals. So let me go through the comments really quick too, because I don't want to fall behind. Let's see. Ashley says, how much snow are we going to get? We're getting into that now. A lot of the Polar Express coming next week. It's going to be cold next week. I think a lot of teens. Nice to see Dawn from Port Austin. Dawn, how much snow did you get? I know it was blowing and drifting, so it was really tough for us to get some accumulation readings in the thumb. So if you could tell me how much you got, that'd be great. Valerie says you want a good 12 inches of snow. Valerie, I think you're going to have split opinions on that, but you know what? If it means, if you could tell me we could have 12 inches of snow later this winter in place of any future ice events, I would gladly take it. Richard, how about tomorrow morning in Saginaw? Could be slippery. Depends on what time you're talking. Kathy asked if there were an advisory added for the day. When would those pop up? I think you would see that around 3 or 4 o'clock tomorrow morning. Elizabeth, light fluffy snow. Yes, more fluffy tomorrow. Hi, Kristen from Midland. Helen from Mount Pleasant. I've got my Fire Up Chip shirt on. Ann from Carroll, one of our weather spotters for many years. Ann, good to see you. Yeah, Dawn says we don't really know either because it was blowing so hard. There's Zach, starting the chaos coordinator again. Appreciate you, Zach. Mark joining the stream. Kayla, Vicky, all good to see you. All right, so here's what I want to show you. Let me pull this up. So this is what we call an ensemble forecast, and for those of you who are reliable on the stream, you've heard me talk about this before, and I'm going to try to zoom in as much as I can to this just so you can actually see it. But what the ensemble forecast is it's a chance for us to basically take all of our models, and if we put them all into one bowl and we kind of mixed it up and we gathered all the opinions of those models and we kind of averaged them out. And so what these do is they give us an idea of, if you take everything from the models and you kind of blend them together, what is the solution? What is the most likely scenario? And so this takes into account all of our high resolution models, which give us the really good finer details most of the time, or as best we can with today's technology. And you'll notice, if you can see my mouse in this area right here, this is around Roscommon and Ogemaw counties. It's right on the border there. And it's a little dot of green. And so what that little dot of green is telling me is that there's a chance, it may not be a likely chance, but there's a chance in that area, if we look down at the color legend at the bottom here, dark blue is 4 to 6, that green is 6 to 8. And so it doesn't necessarily mean 8. I don't think there's enough time for this system to really get up to that much. But where that green dot is, could that potentially be telling me that maybe a small area, if everything comes together just right, or we get some good snowfall rates for a time, could one of our northern counties in that 2 to 5 maybe touch 6? Maybe we get a total 5.5, 6. I don't think that's out of the question. So is it likely enough for me to put it on the map tonight? I don't know if I'm there yet, but I want you to at least know that possibility. So if something happens in that area, if you know somebody in Ogemaw County or Roscommon County, you can say Chris was talking about this last night. But I suppose it doesn't mean anything if I don't put it on the map, right? We'll see. I'll let Matthew know. He's sleeping right now, so I can't talk to him. But I'll let him know what I'm seeing, and maybe he'll take a deeper look tomorrow, and maybe he'll see that too. But I just wanted to kind of bring that to your attention. Again, I think that would be more of, I like to call them snow bonuses. Whether you think it's a good bonus or bad bonus, I guess I'll leave it up to you. But I just think that's something to watch. I still think most are falling within that 2 to 5 range. And then, again, down to the south, most fall within 1 to 3. Could see a few areas maybe get a snow bonus up to 4 in those regions. So that's kind of where things stand. And that's kind of where our snowfall forecast is for the moment. As far as the lake effect that follows, because I want you to also see this, additional lake effect after 7 p.m. So this is through Friday at 7 p.m. That's very important. So basically from tonight through Friday at 7 p.m., this is what we expect. Additional lake effect is possible after 7. What does that look like? This starts, I'll start the clock here at 7 o'clock Friday. We fast forward to about 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon, and there's really not much with the lake effect. I would say less than an inch of snow seems like the most likely scenario for any snow on Saturday for us locally. On the west side of the state, they're obviously going to be dealing with more lake effect snow than us. But this is going to be coming from the southwest to the northeast, it appears, for Saturday. So I wouldn't worry about Saturday as far as the accumulation numbers. Still watch out on the roads because, again, Saturday we're going to have temperatures that are primarily in the 20s. And so untreated roads, it might stick easily. But I wouldn't expect a ton Saturday. or anything later Friday evening into Saturday that's going to add up to a ton. But like I've been talking about with our snowfall map for tomorrow, we'll get one more crack at it tomorrow morning with Matthew's forecast, and then I'll take a look at the lake effect again tomorrow night and see where we're at. But these are the extended temperatures and extended forecast here. We've got temps in the teens pretty much through next week, maybe getting close to 20 on Wednesday. Obviously, wind chills are going to be a concern during that time. We've got wind chills earlier today that were right around 0 to 15 below. So, you know, we'll kind of see where things go. And I'll pull up the snowfall map because I'm sure that's why most of you are joining. I'll kind of leave that up while I check through the comments again. Hernando, when do you think it'll start to warm up? You know, Hernando, I don't see a huge warm up in the next several days. Let me see if I can take a look for you. Diane, thank you. And Scott, appreciate that report out of Kindy. I was actually supposed to be in Kindy today for a school visit, and unfortunately that got canceled. So I'm looking at one thing here. Let's see if I can kind of look longer term. One second. Almost done. Let's see. Yeah, I think, gosh, kind of looking at what I'm looking at now. I'll pull this up so you all can see this. This is just based on Saginaw, but this is the GFS American model. Now, it's not perfect. It is just raw model information, so you just have to kind of take it at face value as far as the extended here. But these are your highs and lows based at MBS Airport in Saginaw. And we've got pretty much an extended period here through the end of the month, where we've got a pretty solid stretch of teens and 20s for high temperatures. So, Hernando, I think you're going to be waiting a while, at least for anything significant. Jessica from Ogama County, thanks for joining the stream. Stacy from Ogama County as well. Stacy, I don't necessarily think, you know, I never want to diminish winter weather and driving, especially with temperatures the way they are. But if you've got, it sounds like you've got a place to be with your pup tomorrow, you know, this is a system where I consider this, you know, standard Michigan winter driving. And, you know, I know everybody feels the level of comfort with winter driving is always a little bit different. But I wouldn't necessarily say that I think this snowfall is something that, you know, is undrivable. That I would say, you know, you've got to stay home. I don't know if that'll make you feel any better. And yeah, Linda, temperatures early next week, not great. Ethan Young, if it's the Ethan Young I'm thinking of, might be one of my former students. If that is you, Ethan, good to see you. Let's see. Mark, no one's trying to predict a month away, I promise. We're just kind of looking in the extended. Like I said, you can't take it as, you know, specifics, but we can notice trends, and we're using, you know, certain patterns. We're not going to tell you it's going to be exactly, you know, 15 degrees, but you can get a sense of when warm-ups and cool-downs happen. And, you know, all signs seem to be pointing towards some cool weather towards the end of the month. You know, that can always change, but long-term here, it looks like a cold finish to the month. Yeah, Heather, I'm really interested to see. You're talking about Sandpoint. You were on the stream last night, and I'm just wondering, it was, snowing for several hours, but, I'm just wondering how much of that snow just really didn't have a chance to even pile up because the wind was so bad. I mean, I saw many videos last night coming out of the Thumb, and even here in Saginaw, you could hear it howling from time to time, but I can only imagine, Heather, that you had a lot of blowing and drifting, and I'm just wondering if things just never really settled for you. And sometimes it's tough to say for sure, but I know sometimes when we get snowflakes that are falling and the wind is too strong, it can almost break those snowflakes apart a little bit. And so smaller snowflakes don't quite accumulate as well as bigger snowflakes. So yeah, let me see, Scott, you're reporting out of Kinney. Biggest factor with this fluffy snow is the wind and visibility. I know this morning was whiteout. Yeah, that was the biggest factor. Even in the absence of maybe a couple of areas came up short when it comes to, some of the lake effect snow totals. Excuse me. Just the fact that it was blowing around, just heard some horror stories late last night and early this morning. So Scott, you're absolutely right. There's Tina, one of my reliable spotters from Harbor Beach. And Tina gave me a good report. I think earlier today, the snow was just blowing all around. Ricky, I would say there's a chance, again, that I think the kids will have school tomorrow. Never say never. And again, if any of this timing moves up a little bit, you also can't say for sure. But I would say, I think kind of the projections that we look at, if we were to project our snow through, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, accumulation still might only be a half inch or less, or maybe even a half inch to an inch at most. And so I think with that, and then also taking a little while for the snow to be spread out over the course of the day, I wouldn't say the afternoon drive home from school for students or the buses would be as nice as it would be on a dry day, of course. But will it be manageable? I think so. Obviously, there would be some slippery areas on untreated roads. But again, once we get to that afternoon time frame, our temperatures warm up closer to a point where we can get those road treatments being more effective. Oh my goodness, John from Port Austin. I have a lot of drifting on my fence. It was 6 feet drifting. The wind was wicked. Yeah, so I guess with that report from John, the report I've got from Tina, and the report that I've gotten from Heather and Sandpoint, I'm just going to give up on trying to figure out snowfall totals from last night. It sounds like just a mess out there. And I've driven out in the Thumb when we've had snow blowing around, and it is not fun. So I'm glad those of you who are joining me from the Thumb tonight are safe. It seems, we're just talking snow here, but it can be really dangerous. We see that every single year on areas like I-94, I-96, those areas, it seems like we get pileups every year now. So with the environment that was out in the Thumb last night, I'm glad all of you are safe. So I'll go through the timeline one more time, and then we'll wrap up the stream. It's already 9:30. Time flies when you're having a good stream. I think that's what the kids say. Take a quick drink. So again, if you weren't joining us at the beginning, I'll just show the sky tracker really quick. We took a look at some of the airport observations on the west side of the state. Not getting much confirmation that this initial push of snow is actually reaching the ground. So what that tells me is the air mass is pretty dry. It's going to take a little bit. We fast forward into the morning. I think snow will be trying to move in throughout the night. It might not have a ton of success, but maybe as we get closer to about 4 o'clock, we start seeing at least some scattered snow showers. I think things will start picking up closer to about 8. And then we'll likely see, again, our most consistent snow from about 8 until 4. And then it will kind of drop off after that. And then we'll get just some scattered lake effects the rest of the night. And then our snowfall map shows, again, about a 2 to 5 inches to the north, and about 1 to 3 to the south. An isolated 4-inch total we think is at least possible. And again, we talked about it just a little bit ago. I'm not going to pull up the webpage again just for you to waste your time. I just would rather you get to the information here. There were some slight hints kind of in this area here, right around Roscommon and Ogemaw County. And of course, you could probably say there's a shifting range somewhere in here. So I guess it could end up anywhere in this area. But there were at least some hints that we might be able to get an isolated total near 6. You know, not confident enough to put it on the map, but we'll see if that's consistent in the morning. How about that? And we'll see if we have to address that. But I think this is a good place to start. And then here's again the lake effect from Friday night into Saturday afternoon. Looks like we actually got another model coming through here. So we got our latest refresh of data. Seems like we've got a few totals of around a 1/2 inch or more. So I'd say probably up to about 1 inch or so. Lake effect can sometimes come in a little bit better than you're expecting, so I'll bump that up to about 1 inch. But from Friday night through early Saturday afternoon, I would say 1 inch or less seems like the most likely scenario. So anyway, that is where things stand tonight. Appreciate you all joining in. And of course, we'll do these streams around 9 o'clock just about every night. Appreciate you all joining. You make it worthwhile, especially when the active weather is coming along. Sherry, I don't see a ton of snow on Saturday. Just some scattered snow showers. I don't think you'll see a lot of accumulation. If you're staying local, of course. If you have a deeper question, Sherry, you can message me on my page. But yeah, on surface level, if you're staying local, I don't anticipate a ton of snow on Saturday. I think it'll be kind of hit or miss through the day. All right, have a great night, everybody. Thank you for watching. You're all appreciated. And we'll have our newscasts, of course, at 10 and 11, and we will see you over there.